Hey everybody, welcome back to Shaji Autos. In this video, I'm going to show you guys how to change your oil on your Toyota Prius from the years 2004 to 2009. The first thing we're going to do is get into a list of items you'll need to complete this oil change. The very first thing I recommend is a metal pan, as the one in front of you right now, to lay under the car to catch any excess oil spills. After that, a oil catch container of this kind is perfect to catch the old oil. A oil funnel is also needed for refilling the engine. A set of shop towels is always recommended for easy cleanup. And this is an oil filter wrench to make it easier to get the old oil filter off the car. A set of gloves is always good to have to keep your hands clean. And we have a 3/8 drive ratchet and a 14 millimeter socket here, as you guys can see, and this is what we're going to use to loosen the drain bolt on the oil pan to get all the old oil out of the car. And you just want to make sure it's locked on there like that. And next here we're going to have the oil drain plug gaskets. I bought these in a set off Amazon. They're relatively cheap and they should be changed every time the oil is changed. The next thing we'll need obviously is the new oil. This is a 5-quart jug of a Mobil 1 extended performance oil. It's the energy conserving, which is what is recommended by the manufacturer, and even though it's a 5-quart jug, we're going to be using 3.5 quarts. And we're also using a Mobil 1 extended performance oil filter. It is part number M1103A for the Toyota Prius, and it is the extended version. So this technically is guaranteed until 20,000 miles. The oil itself is guaranteed until 15,000 miles, but we will be changing it at 5,000 interval that is recommended by Toyota. Last thing we're gonna use or need is a set of ramps. This is to get the car up so we can access it underneath a lot more easily, and it's a lot easier than using jacks. So now we're gonna get to the front. This is the front of the car. We're going to place the ramps snugly against the front tires and make sure we have a good connection there. And then we're gonna go to each side of the car and make sure that the ramp lines up with the car and it's straight, so when we pull the car up, the car doesn't veer off. So we'll get in the car, start it, pull the car up slowly until it automatically stops once we reach the top, and then we want to turn off the car. You want to engage your parking brake and also chalk the back wheel like that with a rock or a piece of wood. And then we're going to open the hood. We come in from the driver's side door and come down, and we'll locate this hood open latch, and we're going to give it a nice little pull here, and it will open the front hood. Then in the front of the car, once the hood has been propped open, you're going to look for this little opening, which will have the hood release that you will have to press up and lift the hood up just like that. Then we will take the hood prop that will hold the hood in place while we're working on the car and unlatch it from the clip and place it into this indentation on the side and lock it into place. And you're looking for this where this arrow is pointing on that fuse box. And then from there we're going to steer over and we're going to find where we're going to be placing our oil. And we're going to loosen this now to make sure we can get it off, because sometimes it can be tight and you don't want to drain the oil and not be able to get that off and add new oil. And then we're going to place it back on top to prevent any debris from getting in there. And then from there we're going to go underneath, and we're on the passenger side of the vehicle right now. We're going to go underneath and back, and this is the oil pan, and that bolt right there that you see is the drain plug. So we're going to be loosening that. So we're going to get the metal tray that we had listed before under the car, and we're going to get our oil drain catch pan. And what you want to do is you want to align that underneath the vehicle to make sure that once you undo this bolt, that it'll come down and most of the oil will be ending up in the pan and not all over the ground. So once we've aligned that, we're going to grab our ratchet and 14mm socket, and we're going to make sure that it's going in the correct direction, because we want to be, while we're underneath the car in the front, we're going to be pulling the ratchet towards the front of the car to loosen that drain bolt. So you want to give it a nice little tug once it's on there secure and break that nut loose. So once that nut is loose, you can go ahead by hand and loosen the drain bolt, and once you get close to removing it, just pull it out quickly and let the oil drain into that pan. And what you want to be mindful of here, as in this situation, the oil drain plug gasket was stuck to the pan, and you want to make sure that that comes off because we're going to be replacing it. So that usually goes on the drain bolt like that, and sometimes they get stuck, but since we have a new one, we're going to go ahead and replace it with this one. So you just want to make, and we also cleaned off the drain plug, so we cleaned it all off, added the new gasket, and now that our oil has slowed down to a drip, we're going to take a little shop cloth and wipe that area clean as much as possible. A little bit of oil will still be coming out, but you want to make sure you can get that surface area as clean as possible. And then by hand, insert the bolt, and make sure you don't cross threads when you're inserting any of the bolts or any of the oil filters in this video. Just take your time, make sure that it's going in smoothly. And then you're going to change the direction of your ratchet, and you're going to go ahead and tighten it by pushing it towards the back end of the car now instead of the front. And just make sure it's hand tight. You don't want to over tighten this because you can strip the threads, you can bend the oil pan, and so you want to be careful of that. And then you just want to clean any excess oil in the area. And then now we're going to go ahead and move to the oil filter, which is located right there. So it's very close to the oil pan, so it shouldn't be too difficult to find underneath. We will have to now adjust where our pan is and where our oil catch pan goes, because some more oil will come out once we remove the oil filter. Now that we know where the filter is, we're going to locate it and kind of gauge where the oil will fall from once we get this loosened up and place the oil pan underneath. And this is where we'll use our oil filter wrench that I was talking about earlier, and it is a tight squeeze in this Toyota Prius, but once you get it in there and you get a good grip on it, you can see that it really helps in loosening that oil filter to a point where you can get the rest of the oil filter off by hand, as so. And once it's loosened enough, once you start unscrewing it, you'll see that a lot of oil will come out into the pan below, hopefully, that you place correctly. And you can continue to take it off after it's the drain has slowed down a little bit. And a quick little tip here is using a shop towel like this to get it off, so it doesn't slip out of your hands once it does come off, and it kind of makes the messiness of it a little bit easier to tackle. The one thing you want to make sure that comes off is this gasket that's on these oil filters. You want to make sure that it's not stuck on the oil filter housing here, which is the surface we're cleaning right now. And while you're checking this, you also want to grab a clean shop towel and make sure this surface area is wiped down clean for the new filter to be put on, and to make a proper seal so that you don't develop any leaks after installing your new oil filter. We're going to open our new oil right here because we're going to prep our new oil filter. And one of the tips here too is to make sure that you carefully take off this foil. I puncture it in the middle and kind of work the edges very slowly. And you want to make sure no small specks of this end up in the oil, because you don't want to be pouring that into your engine and causing all types of issues with that. So once you've gotten enough of that off and it's clean, you want to dip your finger in there and grab some new oil and spread it evenly around the new oil filter gasket, as so. What this does is lubricates that seal so it doesn't get stuck on the next time you take off your filter. And so once we have that done, we're going to go back and we're going to screw in the oil filter as so. And we're going to slowly do it, make sure you don't cross threads, and make sure the oil filter kind of spins on its own, and only hand tighten it. Do not use the wrench, and it should just be hand tight. You don't want to over tighten this, and to make sure it has a solid seal. So now that we've installed our drain plug, we've installed our oil filter, we're going to take our funnel, place it in there, make sure it's secure, and we are going to start adding our new oil. And right here is where the oil should be left after you pour in 3.5 quarts, since this is a 5-gallon jug, or a 5-quart jug, I mean. And we're going to start pouring, and once it reaches the middle mark, you put in 3.5 quarts, and you're going to throw a shop towel and remove the funnel and place back on your oil filler cap. Like so. And then go ahead and remove whatever you use to chock your back wheels, and start the car and slowly reverse it off the ramps. Once it's off the ramps, park the car, turn it off, and check the oil once the car is on a leveled surface. Once you pull the dipstick, clean it with the shop towel, insert it back, and then remove it again, and make sure the oil is up to the top line. You do not want to overfill it, but you don't want it underfilled. And as you can see, since it's synthetic, it's kind of thin, but you can tell that it's full. Now let's quickly go over the steps needed to reset your maintenance light. First thing you want to do is turn on the car, and then go down to your dash and look for the ODO trip button. And you want to keep clicking this until you get to the point where you see the odometer reading. Once that is displayed, you can turn off the car without holding down the brake. Next, you want to hold down the ODO trip button again, and then power on the car, and you'll see the dashing lights go to all zeros, which means the maintenance light has been reset. And at this point, you're done.